Hi, this is a little short thing that I'm doing so that for the live show, for the question and answer, and this is for Terry, because Terry, you wanted to know about a tailored, or I call it a tailored or fitted drop-in lining, and I was telling you that it was something that would be taught in an advanced class. And this is the lining outside, this is the lining stay. And there's almost like a mathematical formula that you use to make this. There's a bunch of A, B, C's, and D's. And I've never taught this on the site before because this is kind of a seriously advanced technique, and this particular lining is normally used when you need your lining to fit really nice and tight, and you don't want to basically just pull it out and clean it. This lining is meant to stay in place, and one of the things there is the way that you do that is by making these stays, and these come up against the back of your bag, and they give it like this structure. Now I just used the 014 here for an example, but you can use an 020, and this would make the bag really stay very, very close to the sides of the bag. And I want to show you that by looking inside the envelope bag that I made. And as you can see, the lining is butted right up against the front and the back. And you could pull this out a little bit to kind of clean it, but you most likely do it like this to clean it. Whereas in a tote or something, like this yellow tote here, you just pull your lining out like that and it comes out. But you can't do that with this type of a lining because you have your Bontex in it, and then you can put a little slip pocket in there, and that's supported by your little Bontex too. So that's really what a fitted lining is, and how it goes into the bag. And the reason that you want it to fit and be stiff is because you really don't want the traditional dropout lining. This is also called the dropout line, a drop-in lining, but it's excuse me, drop-in lining, but it's a tailored or a more custom type of drop-in lining. You can give it really kind of any name you want. And so that's really how that works. And then one of the next, not this next tutorial, when I finish the one I'm doing, I'm going to show you guys how to make an envelope like this. And it's a little bit more than the wedding bag. So that, Terry, is a little bit of an explanation about a tailored or custom tailored lining for your bag. And that gives you a really professional, high quality look, almost like just making a bag within a bag within a bag. Now the next thing I wanted to go over was with Joanne, and this thing called a second bottom. Here is a T-bottom, okay? And you have a seam here, and you have a seam here. And the reason that you're putting this piece over is so that this seam here doesn't show and it doesn't have stress. Because if there was a seam at the bottom and it got stressed, depending on how big the bag is, at some point the seam is going to break through because it's carrying all the weight. So what you do is you put a nice little piece over here to protect the bottom, true, but it's also to add strength to the bottom. And then you cut a piece of Bontex, put it in the bottom if you want to get even additional stiffness. Now when you make your bottom piece like this, what you want to do is you either, for instance, if this was, say, a messenger bag and you were going all the way around, your gusset was going all the way around like this, you would finish your edge, this edge here, stitch but you would leave this long edge open so that when you turn the bag inside out and you stitched it closed, you would catch this and have a nice finish. So now you can put these, as Joanne called them, second bottoms on any bag, but you have to know the sewing. If it's a messenger bag and it's a one gusset deal, then you're going to make you're going to leave your ends, your long ends, open. If it's another, let's see, this kind of bag, of course, you leave these open and you close these over here. You leave these open to sew in, and these are turned to give you a nice finish. So you can add these, Joanne, 2 bags to strengthen the bottom, to add a decorative technique so you have contrast. But you don't do it just for the sake of doing it, because you're going to be adding layers, and you're going to make it more difficult for you to sew. And I know a lot of you ladies don't take these bags out and sell them in stores or anything, but if you were using this as a business deal, you wouldn't want to be using that extra material like that. So you need to think about that, because this is just adding cost to your bag. And it could or cannot or could enhance your bag, depending on how you did it. And you can do these with most soft constructed bags. It's really hard to put a second. There's really, in a more structured bag, you really don't need to do that, because in most cases the bottom is not really sitting on a surface. But in a soft constructed bag, you may want to go for this look. But you just have to be able to keep your thicknesses down. Don't use a really thick paper or anything to put the second bottom on. This is a very thin, this is an 014 that I wrapped this piece of leather around, and it works perfect. It'll stay there forever, and you'll get a nice finish. Now I have another tote that Linda is doing, and this tutorial will be ready. It's going to replace, these tutorials are being replaced as we make them with a better camera and a better picture and better instructions, actually. So here's another example of what you call the second bottom on a T-bottom, and this is pretty much how you use it. You leave this end open and you sew. And these are already finished, so that when you do finish sewing the bag and you make your stitch across, your bag is finished, and all you have to do is put in your feet and your lining. And so that's what I have to say about this idea of the second bottom. It's not that it's a new or something difficult. It's just that you have to control the thicknesses. And you can't really control thicknesses when you're using a heavy weight material. You're stuck with that. And you're folding that material over a stay. So that's going to add a little bit more thickness to the bag. Joanne mentioned that she had broken the needle or popped her machine out of time because of thicknesses, you know. And I think if I remember right, I know Joanne has a cylinder, and I think if I remember right, it's a walking machine, a walking foot cylinder. So to be breaking needles means that her thicknesses are really are an issue. So, and especially because of fabric bags, I can sew through maybe an inch of leather with my cylinder. And what you also want to take into effect, Joanne, is when you're sewing, make sure that all your layers are really even, because if one is just out of place, it's going to bend the needle a little bit, and that bending of the needle will break the needle, also make it hit your bobbin case, and not only break the needle but throw the machine out of time, which will cost you a few dollars to get back into time. And when I do it, it costs me about $80 every time. So you want to try to avoid that. So I don't know if Joanne, if that's going to answer your questions. I know that during this show you're going to be asking me some questions, and I'll try to answer them. But I'm just trying to give a little heads up to what I think some of the issues are that you're being confronted with when you're trying to put on the second bottom. The biggest issue is those thicknesses, and then your sewing technique. I also remember that you made the piece in one piece, the flap, the back and front, and the bottom, or you did the sides and the bottom in one piece. When you do that, you have to remember that you're going to be sewing inside out. Your gusset has to be an inside out, or you take the gusset and you turn it all the way around, flip the edges out like we did the wedding bag, flip it out, and then you sew all around it, just as if you were making an envelope bag. So you want to keep these techniques. You can blend them, but you have to blend the right ones to make your bag work and easier to sew. Now, as I said, I don't know if this is really answering your questions, because you're not in front of me and asking them, but I will be able to answer them as we go through the show and with your comments. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. There was some talk about hardware and things like that, and how to attach it. I've been over that subject matter a number of different times. The hardware is really easy to attach. Mostly always screw on, cutting out a hole, fitting it in, and attaching it with screws. Most of the hardware I've ever seen pretty much works like that. It's really easy. The decision about what hardware you use is just really a design preference, and I tend to try to stay away from those things, because I want you ladies to learn to make your own bags and do your own thing, and learn that way. The hardware issue is fairly, it's not really hard to put it on. You just have to kind of look at it. Other than that, I can't think of too much more I want to put in this little bitty broadcast here, but that's about it. And so if you have questions, let me know, and I'm going to answer them as you watch this. Okay? All right. Bye.